Hello and welcome to another episode of the Gold Country Media Sports Jam. I'm Jordan,
I'm Aaron.
I'm Matt.
and we would like to start by extending our formal apologies to high seeds in the playoffs that we predicted to win, because apparently this has been a very humbling week for us, and we know nothing. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, and apologies to a few other schools. I said I thought Lincoln was going to have a close game against El Camino. Completely wrong on that. They beat them pretty handily. And then we definitely missed a few others, but it is what it is.
Hey, you know what? I mean, it's not like there's any like video recording going back to prove that we got it wrong or anything like that. So, but hey, before we get into it, it's been a crazy week. How was everyone's weekend? Do we finally get, to relax a little, maybe take a breath of fresh air before we're almost in the eye of the storm, if you will. We're the first round of the hurricane. This weekend was the eye, and then it's like, hey, right back to it.
Yeah, I got to take a very, very short breath, but yeah, I mean, I covered something Saturday, but I got to catch up with a couple of friends late Saturday night, and had a little bit of time with family yesterday. So we'll enjoy the few hours we got and move on to the busiest week of the year this week.
All right, Matt, how about you? Did you get a little relaxation this weekend?
Well, I actually didn't feel too well yesterday, so yesterday was not good, but Saturday was okay.
All right.
We're pushing through, everybody. We are warriors for you all.
We are. Life is tough. I mean, they say like, what is it? Like world's most dangerous jobs. They say, it's like ice road truckers and then like sports journalists. I mean, parents get mad at us. Like, what do we, it's scary out there. It's brutal. But hey, we've had a crazy week of sports. I mean, I know just in my area alone, we saw records get broken. We saw an entire visiting team's fan section get ejected from a game. I mean, crazy stuff going on in the area. We had upsets, friends became enemies became friends, and everyone became happy in the end. Who knows? But Aaron, let's start it with you. First half of the week, if you can remember that far, where were you at?
Yeah, I would just like to say the way you introduced that, I want to see you write a book about this year's playoffs. The way you introduced that, because that would be a great little fable right there. But
Right.
no, yeah, getting into the week. So Monday, I was at last Monday, I was at 12 Bridges for girls soccer first round matchup against El Dorado. The Rhinos won 3-0 with Chloe Van Winkle scoring 2 goals in the game. Kelsey Bartlett had the other goal in the game. This was the first win in program playoff history for 12 Bridges. Super happy. Coach Quiros very happy with the team for what they were able to do this season, despite them losing they went on to lose on Wednesday to Ripon. But just a great first year for the program at 12 Bridges, and I think they've got a really good future ahead of them, considering that nobody's graduating. They're going to have all seniors next year. And I'll get into another 12 Bridges team later on in the show, but that was how Monday went. And then on Tuesday, I went to Wood Creek and Roseville for some girls basketball against Weston Ranch. Weston Ranch is definitely a bit of a bigger team than Wood Creek. Wood Creek doesn't exactly have a lot of size. I mentioned that before, but they're a scrappy team. Wood Creek that can shoot the ball. They play some really good defense. They were led by junior Emma Fisselau. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. She scored 15 points and added 3 steals in the game, despite getting in foul trouble in the second and the fourth quarters. When she was taken out of the game, they have a sharpshooter freshman that came off the bench, Chloe Prius. I know I'm definitely butchering a couple of those names, but we move. She took her place and also performed really well. She finished with 14 points. I think she hit 3 threes in the contest. They forced 27 Cougar turnovers, including 18 steals. So, a very solid defensive team in Wood Creek. And, we've seen that all year, outside of the times, they have to go up against a team like Antelope. 6 of the steals in the game on Tuesday came from senior Giselle Torrey. They went on to beat Del Oro on Thursday, and they are going to have a very good game against Christian Brothers on Tuesday. I'm interested to see how that one turns out. The winner will advance to the section championship. From here, we'll move on to Matt.
All right.
Excuse me. Last Monday, I was at Oak Ridge. Oak Ridge, the girls, the soccer, defending D1 and NorCal soccer champs, opened up in the playoffs against Minority Trail. It looked really good in that game, 5-1 winners. Sam Liotti had 2 goals, and Olivia Marsh, Jenna Thompson, and Abigail Thune also scored for the 5 goals. Unfortunately, Oak Ridge 2 days later saw their season come to an end in PKs to Intercom, a 2-1 loss. That happens a lot in the soccer playoffs is PKs. It's a horrible way to lose. Great way to win, horrible way to lose. I mean, you could always say, yeah, I mean, if we would have scored during the regulation play, but Oak Ridge is a good team, and they probably deserve better. But hey, one team's got to lose, and it was their turn. Tuesday, I went back up to Oak Ridge. I caught the first half of the Oak Ridge boys soccer game, or actually, no, it was the first regulation against Bella Vista, and 3-3 tie. Oak Ridge was up 3-1 with 12 minutes to go, and Bella Vista came back and scored 2 goals to tie it up. And that's when I went down to the gym to check out the girls' basketball game, because I just, hey, if I was covering Oak Ridge, they didn't have much momentum at that point, so I thought I don't want to sit there and watch them lose, so I'm going to watch the girls' basketball game. As it turns out, the Oak Ridge boys soccer team did win that game in PKs, 5-3, so they stayed alive. And then jumping ahead, on Wednesday they beat Modesto 1-0 to advance to the semis. On Saturday, which they were crushed by Davis 5-0. So, again, just like the girls, I mean, good season for the boys to reach the semis, which was higher than their seed. So, that's a good performance for them. And the Oak Ridge girls basketball team Tuesday night, they beat Kennedy in the first round in a very low scoring game, 38-24. And then 2 nights later, they lost to Antelope in the quarterfinals, 49-31. And that was my first 2 days.
All right, I like it. And hey, busy times. I think all of us have had a time this week where we were hitting the 2 games at one night at the same school situation. Thank you at least to the section for staggering the start times of soccer and basketball when that's happening. I'll start. Well, I guess my week, it started with Monday, but the team I covered Monday, I covered again on Saturday night. So I'm going to touch up on them later. So I'll get my week started with Wednesday, actually, when Placer hosted Natomas in boys basketball. Now, Natomas came into this one. Here's a little side note. Natomas is normally a Division IV school. They won their league, which was a D3 league, at 11-1, and they were given the 14th seed in the Division III bracket. Now, I know there's always the argument of, when you get to NorCals and stuff like that, that if you win your section, you should get given a home game in the first round of NorCals. I think we should start trickling that into the section tournaments, where if you win your league, you get a home game, even if it's an 8-9 matchup, because if you go 11-1 in league, I mean, you deserve to, be playing a home game, playing in front of your fans. And I mean, I felt like Natomas was underseeded coming into this one. I felt like they probably could have been that 8-9-10 line. Talked to Natomas's coach before the game, saying he kind of felt the same way. Placer's coach was a little nervous about that. Placer being a 3 seed, he's like, I don't love drawing them as a 14. And Natomas did not play like a 14 seed. They came out, they shot 6 of 6 from 3 to start the game. They shot nearly, it was close to 80%. It might have even been a little over 80% from the field in the first quarter. They led by as much as 10 in the first, but they only led 30-24 after 1. And that was interesting to me because I was like, you guys shot the lights out of this gym and you're only up by 6, and you're not going to keep that up for 32 minutes. So, and sure enough, they couldn't. Placer stormed back in the second. They outscored Natomas 23-12 to take a lead in the half, and then they kept their foot on the gas in the third and opened up with a 10-2 run. So they're all sudden up by 13, but Natomas wouldn't go away quietly. They trailed by 12 entering the final quarter, and then first quarter Natomas decided to show back up and cut the deficit to 4, but the Hillmen made their free throws down the stretch, and that kind of was the difference maker in this. Really the 2 dynamic scorers for Placer were at play in this. Ben Manley had 37. Garrett Dutro had 31. Those are really, the 2 that if Placer's in a jam, those 2 are coming in. They can hit shots when you're guarding them, when you're zeroing in on them. They can hit it open. They can hit it from anywhere on the floor. And they were huge in that game. And, they're really the reason Placer didn't get, stunned in a 14-3 upset. So, credit to them. And it's tough for Natomas because you win your league, you go 11-1 league, and you go out and you push a 3 seed to the brink like that. It does make you kind of question, like, hey, if these guys were given that 8-9 matchup or a 7-10 matchup, could they have pulled an upset and maybe, gone on into, quarterfinals or maybe even the semifinal round? But hey, you know what? If you're going to be in the playoffs, you have to be able to beat everyone in your bracket. So a tough draw for Natomas, but that was it for them. And we'll have a little more on Placer later in this. And remember that name, Garrett Dutro. But then Thursday, I was up at Forest Hill High School where they played Elliott Christian. And Forest Hill has never home games are a rarity for Forest Hill's girls basketball team. Thursday night's game was just the second time ever Forest Hill has hosted a playoff game in girls basketball. And they took the lead 4 seconds in and never gave it up. They ended up winning 72-31. Forest Hill was led by pretty much their trio of McKenna Lechner, Addie Aldrich, and Amy Saxelby. Lechner had 33 points, went 14 of 17 shooting. Aldrich dished out 7 assists and scored 14 points. And then even most impressive, Amy Saxelby is a freshman, had never played basketball before coming into this team. And she ended up recording a double-double in her first playoff game, 16 points and 11 rebounds the day after her 15th birthday. So pretty solid performance for her. And then Lady Wildfires are in the semifinals now for the first time in school history, and it almost feels like a movie. And we'll get into this matchup a little later. They're playing it on Tuesday, but Forest Hill is hosting its biggest rival, Forest Lake Christian, in their third meeting this season. Forest Lake Christian's kind of been the big bad wolf in that league and in that division, really, in playoffs. Feels like it's always Forest Lake Christian and Valley Christian meeting in the championship. So, they split the regular season series with each one winning the home games. And now round 3 is coming up with a spot in the section championship on the line. Forest Lake, the team that's been here a million times, Forest Hill, the higher seed, and the team that's never been here. It's going to be an exciting game. And I'll leave it at that before we get into the second half of the week. But yeah, some crazy times, some crazy upsets, some teams that we, aren't typically seeing in these semifinals, these quarterfinals, are starting to kind of make upsets. And it feels like a list of some of the unusual suspects are securing some of these NorCal bids. And Aaron, kind of over to you for your second half of your week. Where were you at and what did you see?
Yeah, I'll get into the second third of my week right now. So on Wednesday, I was at Lincoln for boys basketball first round against El Camino. It was the Zebras, I believe, their first home playoff game since 2019. Now that was a play-in game, but I still consider play-in playoffs. And the Zebras won 69-56 over El Camino. Benny Jomo had 26 points. And, while I don't want to discount that his great performance, it really felt like the key to the game was the big men for Lincoln, Dylan Fear and Tristan Atienza. Dylan Fear had 12 points and 18 rebounds, threw down a dunk that really got the place going in the third quarter. And he almost had a poster late in the third quarter, which would have just blown the roof off. But he played a really great game, especially on the defensive front. Tristan Atienza hit a lot of mid-range jump shots, had 14 points in the game. So, good win for the Zebras there. The first time they had made it to the fun fact, actually, first time they had made it to the quarterfinals in Division III since my senior year in 2016. But the Zebras went on to lose in the second round to Central Catholic on Friday, 57-27. So they are out, but still, a win is a win in the playoffs. So, props to them for that. Thursday, I was at Whitney for boys soccer for their second round matchup against Sheldon, and the Wildcats just dominated this one from the starting whistle to win 6-0. They were up 5-0 at the end of the first half as Ryan McAdams scored twice and Cody Wagner had 2 goals and an assist. The first goal was just a beautiful pass from senior Daniel Yoon to Cody Wagner. They'd finish it with his weak foot, and from there they just took off. Jake Tyberg scored a penalty late in the first half, and then Camden Ozacek scored in the 70th minute. Wildcats went on to win 6-3 against Central Valley on Saturday, and they will be in the Division I section title game for the second straight season at Cosumnes River on Thursday. I'll be going to that, and I'll get into all that stuff as we get later into the show. But that was my second third of the week.
All right, I like it. And that team seems kind of like a buzzsaw, and I'm excited to see that section championship result because soccer. Well, I guess soccer for boys, you just have to make championship matchup for the higher divisions. But hey, still, I'm excited to see how that team goes, especially heading into NorCal because that's a team that can really make some noise.
One thing that I said earlier this season, and I'll get into Lincoln's boys soccer team in a sec, but Lincoln and Whitney are two amazing boys soccer teams, and I was saying I'd really like to see them play because I really think that that'd be a good game. I still think Whitney would win that game by at least a couple of goals. They just have so much talent on that team. And I talked to Coach Williams after the game on Thursday, and it just seems like they reload every single year and get so much talent. And, there are some teams and some schools that are just able to reload like that. And, they're just blessed to do so because they just have talent that just comes in and out. And it's amazing to see.
Definitely. And Matt, throwing it back over to you for the second half of your week. Let's start. Where are you at?
Yeah, Wednesday I went to check out the Vista girls soccer team, defending D3 champs. They had opened the playoffs with a 3-0 win over Vanden on Monday, and on Wednesday they faced Patterson, and they won by the same score, 3-0. Goals by Taylor Grover, Laurel Matthews, and Hannah De Silva. And then they went on to play Ponderosa Friday and won that game 4-0. To get get back to the section championship game again. Scoring for the Eagles on that day, 2 goals by Taylor Grover, another one by Hannah De Silva, and another one by Skylar Renesis. So Vista girls, they're back where they were last year with a very young team. Thursday, I checked out the boys game. Just like Tuesday, I checked out the first half of the boys game against. They were hosting. They opened the playoffs Tuesday with a 3-0 win over Wood, and then Thursday they were playing East Union, and there was no scoring in the first half. And then I went down to check out the girls game, girls basketball game, but I can tell you about the rest of this soccer game here. East Union scored in the first 5 minutes of the second half to take a 1-0 lead, and about 5 minutes later, Vista tied it up with a goal by William Long. And the game, that's the way the game ended in regulation and after 2 overtimes. So again, this game went to penalty kicks, and Vista was on the wrong end of that score, 4-3, and their season is now over. So that's for boys soccer. And then the girls basketball game, they were playing Consumnes Oaks, and that's a team that Vista had played earlier in the year and won by like 9 points, I believe. But Consumnes Oaks, 9 points isn't a big win, but this game was closer than that the whole way from start to finish. Consumnes Oaks played great. Gave Vista everything they could handle. Vista ended up winning by 6, 49-43. Junior Emma Lyons hit a 3-pointer with 22 seconds to go. Vista was up by 1, so she hit a 3-pointer that made it a 4-point game, and made it that 2-possession game that eventually essentially put the game out of reach. So a big shot for her, and Vista advances to the semis on Tuesday against Whitney, who they played twice this year. Folsom girls, I didn't catch any of their games last week, but they won both their first 2 rounds of basketball games easily, beating Davis 83-28, and then getting by Lincoln and Stockton last Thursday 60-37. So they're just like the Vista girls. They are in the semifinals on Tuesday against McClatchy, and then I'll catch you Friday and Saturday next time around.
All right. Well, I guess I'll start with my Friday. It started with Placer girls soccer in the semifinals against Dixon. There was a little bit of drama in this one. We'll get into that in a little bit. I'll start with the game itself, though. Here's an interesting fact, actually, I uncovered before this game. Placer as a school has won 86 section championships, which is the most of any small school and the 4th most in the section behind just Davis, Jesuit, and Rio Americano. Rio Americano at 3rd actually kind of surprised me there. But none of those banners are for girls soccer. So all these great athletes have come through Placer. They've never won a girls soccer championship. And they're hosting Dixon, who's really been a powerhouse in girls soccer, and is one of those teams that's kind of you just expect to be in the running at the end. And Placer really made a statement in this one. They shut down Dixon. They won 3-0 in the semifinal. They dominated possession and field position. The Hill Gals took 22 shots against Dixon's 3. It started out, I'll say this, if the football goalpost or the goal was half an inch wider, Placer would have been up 5-0 in the first 20 minutes of the match. And it just, they were so close and just couldn't find the back of the net. And it was one of those man, is this going to be one of those games that you lose 1-0 because everything was so just close to missing or close to making it, but didn't go in, and Dixon just gets one in. You know, you see it from time to time, especially soccer. I feel like soccer and hockey, it's like if that one team's narrowly missing, all of a sudden another team will get a lucky goal and somehow end up winning the game. But that didn't happen this time. Carolyn Roach put the Hillmans on top in the 37th minute, and then feels like a 1-0 lead going into halftime, and all of a sudden sophomore Ella Turner gets the ball on a counterattack and literally dribbles through the entire Dixon team and scores right before the final whistle for the half to make it 2-0. And at that point, it was just the writing was on the wall. And, you know, at that point, I actually went down to the basketball game, but the writing was on the wall. Hillman scored one more and made it 3-0. And now they're going on to the section championship tonight, actually, to take on West Park in round number 3 of their matchups this year. And they couldn't be more evenly matched. They tied 5-5 and 3-3 in the first 2 games. So tonight's game is going to be an interesting one. And I'll have a little more on this soccer game in a minute. But I went down around halftime to the Placer boys basketball game. And this is another one where they played a team that I thought was a little bit underseeded, and that was Kimball, who was the 11th seed. They beat number 6 Lathrop 91-49 in the opening round. And when an 11 seed's beating a 6 seed on the road by 42, you can make a pretty good argument that they probably should have been seeded higher. But again, if you want to win, you need to beat everyone in your bracket. And I was nervous for Placer going into this one, and Placer made me look really dumb because they won 88-59. And here's another fun stat for you. Placer opened up in 1897. And for most of those 126 years, they've played basketball there. Players that have played for Placer have gone to play in the NFL, the NBA G League, international leagues, MLB, like you name it. And nobody has scored more points in a single game than Garrett Dutro did on Friday night. Scored 46 points for Placer in the win, and he only had 1 3-pointer in this. So he was doing this from the 2, and he had 13-14 from the free throw line. It was incredible to see. I mean, there was the old record was 41 points held by Gary Just and Jimmy Carroll. They both had it. It was, I mean, there were times where Kimball was swarming him. They were mugging him. They were doing everything they could do. And this kid just could not miss. It was like there was a magnet for that ball and finding the hoop. I mean, it was impressive to watch. And then even more impressive is he told me, you know, I didn't even know I was getting close to the record. And he's like, yeah, cool. It's an honor to be the top scorer, but I'm just happy we won. He's like, I didn't really care about any stats, any record, anything like that. I'm happy we won. And the nice thing about this too is, you know, Coach Mark Lee has been at Placer for a long time. I think 28 years, 29 years, something like that, 36-year coaching career. And the win on Friday night secures a spot in the CIF state tournament, which ensures that no matter what happens Wednesday when they play Sacramento in the semifinal, that he will at least have one more game. And, you know, it's got to be kind of a sigh of relief for him, I think, because, you know, it's got to not be easy going into every game knowing this could be the last time that you are coaching. So I mean, the game against Sacramento is going to be a tough game, but I think it's got to be a little bit of a sigh of relief, maybe a little bit of pressure off the players too, to know like, okay, no matter what, you know, this legendary coach isn't done after this game, even if we lose.
Jordan, I got to say something real quick is I think there is something that is even more impressive than Dutro's 46 points at that game at that game. I don't know how old Coach Lee is, but the fact that dude still can almost do a full cartwheel is pretty impressive.
So if you guys don't know what Aaron's talking about, Placer's Mark Lee, every time there is a big win, when he enters the locker room, he does a cartwheel in front of the team. And I saw the video of it. You got to look it up. It's on Placer's basketball's Twitter page, I believe. But I think that might be the most impressive athletic feat accomplished around the Placer basketball program on Friday night. I mean,
is Mark Lee your athlete of the week for this week?
He might be. He might honestly be. I mean, he's definitely a runner-up for it. And, you know, speaking of Friday night, there was something that happened while I was at that basketball game, and it was in the second half of the soccer game. And, you know, we do have to kind of mention it. Dixon's entire fan section was ejected in the second half of the soccer game against Placer. The decision came from the center ref after continued remarks towards them, which were considered aggressive and hostile. And, Dixon fans can be upset about it, but I talked to people from the game and they said they were warned twice by the center ref and their head coach was given a yellow card for the fans' behavior, and they still kept going, and which prompted the ejection, and they had to be escorted out of the stadium by a Placer School administrator, and then the refs actually had to be escorted to their cars after the game because Dixon's fans were watching from the parking lot, and they kept going after the match was over. And it's one of those things that it's the ugly side of high school sports. It happens. I reached out to someone from Dixon and didn't get a response. So, anyone from Dixon, if you guys are watching this and you're upset that your side isn't talked about, I'd love to hear your side. Please tell someone from your school to respond to me. But Placer's coach said one of the memories she's going to take away from the game, it's unfortunate, but it was watching the Dixon girls pleading with their fans to hurry up and leave the game so that they can keep playing. And, it's just sad when it gets to that. And especially when the kids are being the bigger person than the adults are in that situation. And the other thing too is it's one thing, I'm not one to blame the refs. I'll call out a bad call when I see it, but I don't know if you guys have noticed this either. I've never really seen people blaming the refs when they lose 2-1 or when they lose 1-0. I always see people blame the refs when it's 3-0, 4-0. It's like that. It wasn't a 4-goal difference or a 3-goal difference that the refs made up. Or even in Placer's basketball game, I heard a fan after the game yell, "It's not your fault. You guys lost. It was 7-on-5." And I was thinking to myself, you lost by 29. There was no bad call that made up for 29 points in that game. And just, I guess the message kind of is, taking off serious cap after this, but don't be that parent. I mean, sometimes the better team just wins the game, but don't be that parent that blames a ref anytime your kid loses. It's not teaching your kid anything. And when your kid is begging you to leave so they can keep playing the game, take a look in the mirror and really kind of think about it.
Yeah, and there's just a couple things I wanted to add on to that is, one thing I think that fans got to realize, and I think, it doesn't just happen in high school. I think it happens at a lot of youth levels. I mean, I remember seeing a couple years ago, a parent come onto the field and actually like kicked a referee. I've seen games even last year where basically like fans were like so mad they tried to get onto the field after a game for a girls soccer game, and things that I think that fans just got to realize is regardless of how caught up in the moment it is, regardless of how passionate you are about your kid, you have to understand that like these referees, they're not getting paid a boatload of money to do the job, and in some cases, especially at younger levels, they're volunteering. So like you have to understand that. I mean, if you really are that frustrated, learn to referee yourself. Go out there and try to ref a game. And I'm not going to deny. I mean, Jordan. I mean, we've talked about it before that there have been times where we've had a couple of encounters that are frustrating. We're trying to take photos or whatever on a sideline, and we're told we have to step back to the track. It's like we know what we're doing, but at the same time, referees are there to because they care about high school sports. They're there because they actually care about trying to grow the game. Don't be one of those people that tries to take away from that and hinders the growth of the sport. I think that's the thing that people got to realize.
Definitely. And Matt, I don't know if you got anything you want to add on some ref stuff, but I got one more takeaway if you don't have anything you want to add.
Oh, good.
It's one of those situations where I get that there are sometimes bad calls, and I get that it can be frustrating, but the parents too and I've seen this comment come up even after this story, that they say, oh, this school paid off the refs, this school paid off the refs. That's not how that process works. And I've actually talked to some refs that live in the area of one of the schools they're officiating, and they have said that they actually call games harder for their local school because they're like, I know this coach personally and I know how he coaches them and I'm going to hold them to that standard out there. But watching this game, there was no like one-sided calls. It wasn't like one side was playing dirty and they were letting things go or anything like that. It was just, I don't know what Dixon fans saw that they were upset about, but I promise you it's not worth getting kicked out of your kid's game for. And I was at my little cousin's travel ball game and it trickles down in there. I was at my little cousin's travel ball game on Saturday morning and there was a pitch in a game and the game was like 16-0 at this point, like not even close. And this pitch is in the other batter's box and a parent is chirping the umpire going, it looked good from here and yada yada. I was sitting right behind the home plate, dude. It was in the other batter's box. It's a ball. Like, it's okay. Your son is capable of throwing a ball. It happens. And it's just sad that we're getting to that point because all it's going to do is hurt youth sports. People say, "Oh, we need to do something about the refs. They need to call the game better." And like you said, Aaron, go out and do it then. They should almost make umpiring or reffing or something mandatory for parents to have to do because I think it would shut a lot of people up.
Hey, Jordan, what was the score of that soccer game when they were ejected?
3-0.
All right.
So it was, I mean, the game wasn't
Game
even
over.
close. It hadn't been close for a while, and
Yeah.
Glasser controlled possession and field position. So, it's not like if it was a close game, then sure, maybe I can understand tempers flaring, but it just when you lose 3-0 and you lose in that manner and then you get ejected, it comes off more as throwing a temper tantrum than it does, a heat of the moment type of thing.
And I kind of saw that a little bit at a game last week at that Whitney game. One thing I didn't mention, I'll just make it really short and we'll get on to the next thing. When it was like a 5-0 game or a 6-0 game, things really started to get a little bit chippy, and it was more of like the Sheldon players than anything. It led to actually a red card after the game. The fans were definitely engaging in it. Ironically, the people who were actually the most level-headed were the Sheldon coaches trying to get their players back to the sideline, trying to calm everybody else down. But it's just sad, and this is something I want to make this clear. It's not something that happens a lot, but when it does happen in those rare instances, it's definitely ugly to see when we're trying to grow sportsmanship for the youth.
Definitely, and hey, just don't be the parent that ruins it for the kids. Anyway, back to the sports. No more serious cap. Aaron, where were you at for the final half of your week?
For sure. So on Friday, I was at Rockland for a girls soccer section semis against Franklin. The Thunder really controlled this game for the first 60 minutes. They held probably about 70% of the possession. And Neilani, I'm going to mispronounce this again, probably Demacion scored in the 37th minute for the Thunder. But then Franklin picked up the intensity and started applying pressure in the last 20 minutes. And they just got two great scoring opportunities and converted both in the 62nd and 79th minutes to stun the Thunder. Coach JJ Barnett still super proud of his team as they were last year literally last in the SFL, and they went from last all the way to first this year. And they have 9 seniors that are going to be graduating, but they have a lot of talent that's going to be returning, such as their goalkeeper Shannon Porubsky, Demacion, and multiple other starters out there. So they'll still be good next year, but it's definitely a tough way for them to go out. And then on Saturday, I was back at Lincoln for boys soccer semis against Valley High. I know Lincoln was hoping to play Christian Brothers in this one because it would have been a rematch of last year, but Valley actually beat Christian Brothers in the quarterfinals. This game was still a super exciting game. Went back and forth. The Zebras prevailed 3-2, and they'll be playing on Tuesday in the section championship against Golden Valley. Zach Giles had 2 goals in the game. In fact, his goal in the 25th minute that came off of an assist from Evan Carlton actually was his 27th goal of the season, which Jordan, you mentioned a record earlier. This is a school record for most goals in a single season. So hats off, congratulations to Giles. So that was the first goal. The Vikings for Valley then responded right back and scored, and then the Zebras responded right back and scored to take the lead from Jack Bingham. So it was 2-1, and then once again Valley responded with a goal, and then Zach Giles had the winner in the 65th minute to win 3-2. So a huge win for the Zebras. It's the 3rd time in school history that they have made it to the section championship. The other 2 times were in 2006 and 2017, and the Zebras won both of those games. So we'll see if they can make it a perfect 3 out of 3.
All right, I like it. Matt, how about you? Over to you. Where were you at?
Yeah, Friday night. Upsets happen on any given night. A team can lose, and Folsom High, the top seed in the D1 playoffs, boys basketball, are upset by Western Ranch, the 8th seed, who opened the playoffs with a win over Grant. And Folsom opened the playoffs 2 days prior with an 82-40 win over Pittman, which was Coach Mike Wall's 500th career victory. So on this night, though, from the opening tip, Folsom never looked like the team that only lost 2 games all season. I mean, they looked out of sync. Western Ranch, they were a quick physical, fast team, but they didn't have a lot of height. But they just took Folsom out of their game. Folsom had trouble scoring at the offensive end. They didn't look like they knew what they were doing for most of the night until the 4th quarter when they finally scored like 25 points. But I don't know what else to say. Folsom had a bad night, and Western Ranch was not intimidated or scared to come in there. And ironically enough, 3 years ago in 2020, Folsom was the 14th, or Western Ranch was the 14th seed, and Folsom was the third seed. Western Ranch came to Folsom and beat them. So it's twice in 3 years that they've beaten Folsom on their home court in a basketball playoff game. So I don't know if Western Ranch just has, Folsom's number or what, but they looked like the better team that night, and they showed it.
I mean, if I remember correctly, I could be wrong, but I thought Weston Ranch in a lot of the preseason rankings was ranked pretty high among the section. And if I remember right, they kind of underwhelmed this season. And I think, it was one of those where maybe that was the Weston Ranch team that everyone thought in the preseason coming out all of a sudden.
I wanted to ask you real quick. I'm sorry for interrupting. I just wanted to ask you real quick, Matt. Do you, even though they didn't make it to section semis, do you think because of the strength of schedule and Folsom's record, do you think they'll get a NorCal playoff bid?
Coach Wall told me after the game that how he understood it is any team, the top seeded team in the top 50 in the Max Preps rankings, even if they didn't make this semis, will move on. And I think Folsom was ranked number 1, so they would be the first team to move on. So I asked him after the game, "Are you guys done?" He goes, "No, we should be at NorCal's because of whoever decides, I guess, the section, the top ranked team in the Max Preps rankings who don't make the semis moves on." So according as far as he knows, they're gone. So I mean, they're playing again. And then lastly, wrestling. I got Folsom High has 4 wrestlers going to the state championships. 1 female, Dominique Lopez, in the 111 weight class, and then three males: Elias Rivera at 113, Chase Mansky at 120, Colin Denny at 195. Oak Ridge has 2 state championship wrestlers heading to the state tournament: Shaden Carr at 160 and Connor Dasman at 182. And Vista Del also has 2: Jackson Ramos at 220 and Evan Glines at 285.
All right. I mean, impressive day there. And it just feels like, Matt, I mean, what do they put in the water in Folsom? Why are they good at everything? It's like I say with Alabama basketball being like number 1 at one point this year. I'm like, you can't be good at football and basketball. That's not fair. You can be football and baseball or basketball and baseball, but you can't be good at both. That's not okay.
Well, I mean, a lot of it, Coach Wall just won his 500th game, so he's got to be considered one of the better coaches in the area. So, and Folsom for a long time and had Chris Richardson, Troy Taylor, and now Paul Doherty. And coaching goes a long way. I think obviously you have to have the athletes, and they have. You don't win 500 games without having good players. So
it makes you wonder what Folsom, and across the board, because I know, like you said, wrestling is, impressive too, but it really makes you wonder with the resurgence, not resurgence, but with how good Vista Del Lago's gotten in a few years, what would happen if they never built Vista Del Lago? I mean, it's kind of like, I always have the running joke up in the Auburn area because Placer was the only school for 50 years, and then they built Del Oro and Colfax, and they opened in the same year. I'm like, what those schools are always doing, I'm like, could you imagine if they never built Del Oro and Colfax? Placer would be right up there with Folsom. It would be Placer and Folsom every year for the championship.
And Folsom, you said it, wrestling and wrestling, but basketball and football has been good for several years. But the girls basketball team not so long ago wasn't very good, but they've gotten good in the last 5 or 6 years. And the girls softball team in the last 3 or 4 years has gotten good. So the girls sports are coming along too. And then Folsom's got another high school opening in 4 years, 5 years. So again, what if that one doesn't open? It didn't open.
Yeah, I mean, and Aaron, you could make the argument for Aaron's stuff too.
Right.
What would Roseville be if they never built Wood Creek, Granite Bay, and West Park? Where would Rockland be if they never built Whitney? Where would Lincoln be if 12 Bridges never opened? So, all right. Well, second half, and I guess the final game to round it all out was my game Saturday night. And it was Colfax girls soccer clinching back-to-back Division 5 section championships. Excuse me. One sec. Swallowed my own spit wrong. So never say that sports writers aren't athletes. But I'll start with this. I don't think I've ever seen a team celebrate a section championship less than I've seen Colfax celebrate it, because when the final whistle blew, they had the hugs, stuff like that. They celebrate with the banner, but it looked like just another win for them. They expected to win this, and they expected to be here. They finished they finish now this kind of stretch of the season going into NorCal's. They're 25-1-1. And it was just impressive. I will say so. I was a little nervous at the beginning of the match. They played Sutter in this one, who they beat 8-0 and 3-0 in league this year. And Sutter's game plan was pretty much drop 10 people back from the start and hope they can take a 0-0 tie into penalty kicks. And there was a little moment where Colfax co-captain Carly Patrick, she ended up getting hurt in the match. We don't know the severity of it yet. But when she goes down about 5-10 minutes in, you may not see her name on the score sheet a lot, but she actually leads for goals, but she actually leads the team in assists, and she's kind of the facilitator of that whole offense. So her going down, it kind of made, it started throwing in some question marks, and you could see Colfax was a little bit shaken up from it. And it was one of those where it's like, okay, well, now what? Like, who's going to run this thing? And then a couple minutes later, Colfax ends up finding the back of the net. It started with Courtney Reese getting her foot on a corner kick to make it 1-0. 3 minutes later, she scores a second one. But honestly, that goal was set up by a beautiful dribble and feed from Shaylin Ackerman, who was the other co-captain of that team that I guess kind of just became the captain when Carly went down. And then Harmony Blackman scores in the 34th minute. Colfax just rolled it over. What was scary is they were up 3-0 at halftime, and none of the usual suspects for them had even scored yet. And then they decided to do their scoring in the second half. And final score ends up being 6-0. Here's the impressive stat, though. Colfax outscored their opponents 23-0 across the 3 playoff matches in this. They're awaiting their NorCal regional draw. Last year, they got moved up a division and received the 8th seed, losing to eventual champion Christopher High out of Gilroy in the opening round. So it was a tough pill to swallow for them last year, winning your section. And if you were ranked 1 lower, you would have been the 1 seed in D5, but instead you were the 8 seed in D4. That's tough. But I asked her about it this year, and she said, we want to be moved up a division and we want to be given home field advantage. And she's like, we want the competition. She said, we don't want to be down in these divisions anymore. We don't want to be outscoring our opponents 23-0 in the playoffs. Like, that's not fun for anyone. That's not fair to these other girls that, where the Sutter was a pretty good team this year. And I think if they played anyone else in that championship, probably even a few D4 schools, they would have won. But they just ran into a school that, this team is loaded this year. And in my opinion, it's a case of someone that's too good for the division that they're in right now for this sport. And I know that, I guess, this is probably a side note and a tangent for another time, but I know the section typically only will move a school up for one sport only when it's football or basketball, like a Modesto Christian in basketball and, certain cases like that. But I think they really need to start looking at putting teams in a different division for other sports, because this Colfax team, I think, has 1 graduating senior on it. And they did this to everyone. So it's like, you're really going to put them in Division 5 or maybe Division 4 again next year. Like, they really need to start looking at maybe moving a team up a division or 2 for sports outside of the big ones. And that's kind of going to do it for my sports. But hey, athletes of the week we'll get to, and we're far into this show, but hey, we still got more. That's the busiest time of the year. Aaron, let's start with you. Who are your athletes of the week?
So pretty much said what my Lincoln one did already. It's going to be Zach Giles, 2 goals in the section semis, essentially, leading the team this year, 28 goals on the season. He's just been so huge for that team. One thing that's super impressive about him that I didn't mention is just his speed. If he has a guy in front of him that's like 8 to 10 yards in front of him, and there's a ball out in open space, he will still find a way to beat that guy and get to that ball. I don't know what his 40 time is. I know that he was a kicker on the football team. I should have asked him that, but I'd imagine like it's pretty quick. He is a super fast player, and he's so determined to get to really any open ball. He's my athlete of the week for Lincoln. And then South Placer athlete of the week is going to be Anthony Berg, who took first in the 145-pound weight class at the Masters tournament on Saturday. I did want to shout out, though, a couple other wrestlers. Del Oro actually had a lot of wrestlers, not just on the boys' side, but also on the girls' side, that performed extremely well, and some that even actually won their weight divisions or weight classes. 101 pounds on the girls' side, freshman Kaya Magini took first place there. Mila Nemi, I believe I'm pronouncing that right, for Granite Bay, took first in the 111 pound weight class. And then there were a couple other girls too. I know Packheiser for you, Jordan, finished third at 116. There were just a lot of impressive performances when it came to wrestling. I know that there was another girl who took third for Granite Bay. I believe it was Taylor Wells in her weight class. I'm still trying to find that. But yeah, no, just even on the boys' side, there was just a lot of impressive performances. It would take a while to get into all of them, but yeah, very, very impressive wrestlers from the area.
Definitely. Matt, over, and I definitely will have some wrestlers in my athlete of the week. Matt, over to you. Where were your athletes of the week?
Yeah, the hardest thing to do in soccer is score goals. Vista Lago sophomore Taylor Grover had 5 goals in 3 playoff games last week. Only a sophomore. She has 15 goals for the season. She had 2 goals in the semifinals, 2 goals in the first game of the playoffs, and then in the quarterfinals, she had 1 goal and an assist. So she's again, only as a sophomore, she's having a great playoffs, and if she can finish it off Tuesday with a couple more, they could be back-to-back section champs. But anyway, she's my athlete of the week.
All right, impressive. Picking an athlete of the week this week was probably one of the hardest things to do. If you hear dogs barking, I'm sorry. My we have company coming over and the dogs are running to greet them. So, but the obvious choice is Garrett Dutra. When you break a school record at a school that's been around for 126 years, you're the athlete of the week. 46 points. I mean, impressive performance. I don't know if I've ever really seen that from a high school kid. I think that's most points I've seen a high school kid drop in a game. So Dutra is definitely the easy choice. Another one is going to be Shaylin Ackerman for Colfax Soccer. She had 4 goals in the semifinal win. She had a goal and an assist in the section championship game. So a big one for her, as well as Kaya Diedrichs. And this is more for the season as a whole for her. As a freshman in 2022, she broke the school record with 37 goals in a season. And now as a sophomore, she broke her own school record and had 45 goals going into the semifinal game, or going into the championship game, and she had a goal in the championship. So 46 now, and their season's not even over. Now you're getting into NorCal. So, and keep in mind, she's a sophomore. So again, I guess pounding the table for Colfax to maybe have a little stiffer competition next year and get them in a different division. But
Jordan, do you know where she's ranked in the section in terms of most goals scored?
That I don't know, and it's tough to tell because not every coach updates their stats. So it's hard because you see some of these are impressive, but it's not like football or basketball where coaches are putting their stats in after every game. So I take some of that with a grain of salt just because not everyone is updating, or they'll update 2 games and then they won't update, the rest of the year. So
because I know she was third last year, so I just wonder if she was
Yeah.
any higher this year.
I mean, she's got to be up there this year for it. I'll give it a look and get back to you on it for sure. And then, like you said, Brianna Packheiser, third in the section at Masters. She pinned a girl from Wood. Last name was Crabtree, a girl that I think that was her 4th time meeting this year. And she actually gave Packheiser a concussion the first time they met. And I think Packheiser has pinned her the other 3 times now. So it's safe to say she's gotten her revenge on that. And congratulations to her. She's only a junior too, so she is just getting better. And it was her goal to go to a state championship, and she's going to be going to states now once again. So an impressive performance from her. And then one last one is I got to give it to Saxelby with the double-double at Forest Hill, and Courtney Reese scoring 2 goals in the section championship is an impressive feat. So congratulations to them. And like I said, you guys are making it tough for the athletes of the week this week. Kind of just to wrap this up, because I know we've been going on. Let's just start with where we're going to be this week. It's going to be a busy week. I know for all of us, starting for me, up with Auburn, I'm going to be going down to Cosumnes River College again tonight for the girls soccer section championship between Placer and West Park. Like I said, they met twice this year, and 5-5 and 3-3 was the score. And I'm expecting another high scoring game. I would not be shocked if we get overtime. I would not be shocked if we get PKs. I'm going to say Placer 5-4 in this, just because I got to go with the higher seed.
And because you're the Auburn Journal, right?
Yeah, and because I'm the Auburn Journal. You know what? I mean, hey,
I'm just saying. last week the Roseville Press Tribunes 1-0 against the Auburn Journal. We'll see if they can make it 2-0
So
tonight.
wait, what's your
3-0
formal
Tuesday.
prediction then, Aaron?
I agree. I think it'll go to PKs. I'm going to go 4-3 West Park and PKs. They just beat
All right,
Ripon
this
and
show's
PKs.
over. I can't deal with this. Hey, well, I will say this. I think Tuesday night you are going to get one on the Auburn Journal for sure. I'm going to pick VCA over Bear River and girls hoops, but that's not where I'm going to be on Tuesday night. I'm actually going to be at Colfax and Marysville for a round 3 of that one as well. Colfax, it's the girls basketball semifinals. Colfax, so 1 seed, has had Marysville numbers this year, but Marysville matches up against them really well. The problem is Marysville just can't run the floor with Colfax the way they do. But if Marysville can force them to play a half-court game, I actually think I'll say this. I was talking to a Colfax coach actually at the soccer game because he has one daughter that plays soccer, one that plays basketball. And I was telling him Colfax, I think, is the best team in that bracket by far. But there are some teams that I think Colfax is better than that can beat Colfax, and Marysville is absolutely one of them. And he's even said, hey, they make me a little nervous the way they match up. I think it's going to be a lot closer than the other games show. I do think because it's in Colfax, I'm going to give them the edge. And then another game I'm going to have an eye on while I'm covering that is Forest Hill and Forest Lake Christian in girls basketball. The winner goes on to the section title. And then Wednesday, I'm going to be at Placer High School at Sac High School for number 2 Sacramento and number 3 Placer in the boys basketball semifinals. That's another game that's going to be a great game. And if you look at Sac High's roster, Placer probably had their best rebounding game of the year against Kimball. And Sac High has, I think, 2 kids on that roster that are under 6'3". So Placer's rebounding and in the post is going to have to be on point. Placer does have some shooters which can work to their advantage. I think it's going to be a great game. I'm going to give Sac High the edge, but I think it's going to be like a 2-point game. I'm going to say like 64-62. This is one of those games I give Sac High the edge because it's at home. But if you look at the D4 or D3 field in basketball, with Bandon and Central Catholic in one semifinal and Placer and Sacramento in the other, I honestly think I can see a world where each of those 4 teams wins a section. I mean, this is probably the most evenly matched grouping of the most evenly matched Final Four across the entire every bracket. So that's going to be my week. And then end of the week, we will be at some basketball section championships. That is for sure. We don't know who's playing in them yet, though, so we can't say who. But we will definitely be at Golden One Center. Maybe we'll all be together at Golden One Center, and you guys, all you fans, can get a Sports Jam picture with all of us. Aaron, over to you. Where are you going to be this week?
Did you ask Matt or did you ask me? Sorry, I missed that.
Aaron or Matt.
Okay,
whoever wants to go.
I got it. So tonight I'm going to enjoy a much deserved and much needed night off because since you're getting the West Park Placer game, I got nothing else going on and I'm going to enjoy that. So, but tomorrow is going to be the start of a busy week once again. I'm going to be at Cosumnes River basically 3 days in a row. Tuesday for the D3 championship between Lincoln and Central Valley. I'm going to go with Lincoln winning that 2-1. Wednesday, I'm going to be at the D2 girls section title game between St. Francis and Del Oro. I actually picked the other side. I picked the other 2 teams in the semis to make it, Whitney and Wood Creek, and St. Francis beat Wood Creek 2-0. And Del Oro, and I was shocked by it. They beat Wood Creek 1-0. So big congrats to Del Oro there. I've said, they're a scrappy team that plays really solid defensively. I actually watched a couple of clips from the game that were sent to me, and there was a ball that was cleared off of the line, I believe from Tierra Pickle, if I'm pronouncing that right. Yes. And that was late in the game. And they're just a scrappy team. I'm interested to see what they can do against St. Francis. I'm going to go Del Oro 1-0 in that one. And then Thursday, I'm going to be there for the Division I boys title game between Whitney and Davis. This would be a good game, but I mean, Whitney just has so much firepower, man. I'm going to go Whitney 3-1, winning their 2nd straight section title. I know it sounds super biased, right? Because I'm covering, picking all 3 of my teams, but I really do think they all can win it. And then, like you said, Jordan, Friday and Saturday, it's a giant question mark. I mean, the teams that I still have in it, I've got Lincoln girls still in the playoffs, Whitney girls, Wood Creek girls, Valley Christians boys and girls, and then Whitney and Granite Bay's boys that are in the semis in Division II. A couple of matchups. Lincoln's going to face East Union for girls basketball. I think the Zebras should get their number. I think it's going to be Van and Lincoln once again, like I said last week. Wood Creek Christian Brothers is the one that I'm really looking at because I really think that can go either way. But I'm going to go Christian Brothers in that one. And Whitney Vista Del Lago, I mean, that's a coin flip. Take your pick because they're 1-1 against each other this year. I think that game honestly could go to overtime. For the sake of being the Placer Herald, I'm going to go with Whitney, but I think that could go either way.
Now, well, one, we got to get Matt's counter prediction on that. But I mean, out of curiosity, I'd like to see the stats. How many times have Lincoln and East Union met in the postseason across not just these sports, but I feel like they're always running into each other somehow.
They could have met in boys soccer, I think, too, because I think Golden Valley beat East Union to get there. But I know that East Union Lincoln is a rematch of the section semis last year for girls basketball, and I think Lincoln beat them by I want to say 10 or 12, and I think we'll get something close to the same. But yeah, I've definitely seen that matchup quite a bit, especially in recent years.
All right, and Matt, over to you to take us home. Well, one, what's your counter argument to Whitney Vista? I mean, who's winning that game?
All right, well, I'm going to say Vista wins by 1 on a 3-pointer at the buzzer by Charlize Kai.
All right, I like it.
If
That
that's
is
right,
calling
you
your
need to go to
shot
the
right there.
If that ends up being correct, you need to hit the casino ASAP.
And then you're splitting it with us three, and we're getting a studio. All right,
So-
where are you going to be at for the week?
Yeah, I mean, Tuesday is this. Gosh, I wish I could split it up to Monday and Wednesday too. But Folsom High girls play at home against McClatchy. Vista Lago girls home against Whitney. We got Jimmy Linsdale doing that game for us, so that's good. I'm going to catch at least the first half of the Vista Christian Brothers soccer game. I'm hoping one of the teams has a lead at halftime because I'd really like to bail out of there. I haven't seen Folsom. I mean, I've seen Folsom a lot this year, but I haven't seen the girls play in the playoffs, and I think it's going to be a good game with McClatchy. So I'd like to get up at least to see the second half of that game. So that's my Tuesday, and then other than that, hopefully one of those basketball teams can win and be at Golden One this weekend. I don't have anything right now Wednesday or Thursday, but I guess spring sports have started, so I guess I could look at their schedules, but I have not done that yet.
That is one thing I wanted to mention too. I saw that on your notes. Colfax baseball opens up their season this week. I believe Thursday or Friday. I got to double check, but depending on when it is and how it works out, I might be checking out a game there too. And I mean, next week we're going to be hitting baseball, softball, and for you guys, lacrosse too, as well as NorCal playoffs because we've got a few teams in. So hey, no rest for the wicked. So I think that's going to just about do it for this week's episode of Sports Jam. Before we get going, does anyone have anything they want to add?
I'm looking forward to an exciting week. I wish best of luck to everybody out there in the playoffs. It's gonna be a fun week. I will say, Golden One Center, as busy as this week is, it's probably, as a reporter, my favorite thing to do during the entire year, going and covering basketball championships at Golden One. It is just a great atmosphere, great environment. The Kings and Golden One Center have just great hospitality there. Really looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely. They take care of you there, and section championships for every sport are always my favorite time of year because you get there a little early. You usually get to see a pretty good game going on before. If you hang around a little bit after, there's usually a really good game going on after. I mean, it's just great. Every year, great football, great basketball, great soccer. I mean, it's a great time. All right. Well, that's just going to do it for this week's episode of the Gold Country Media Sports Jam. I've been Jordan.
I've been Aaron.
I have been Matt.
And we will see you next time.